Good morning and good afternoon, and even good evening as you listen to this video. And next week will be our midterm exam, and I choose for this week just to have a review so that we can understand the topics we discuss for this midterm period. And as a review, I will go over the performance assessment and its tools, the effective assessment and its tools, as well as the portfolio and the assessment for portfolio. So let's begin with the performance assessment and its tools. When we say performance assessments, we are doing assessments of the works of the students as they demonstrate their knowledge and skills in a non-written fashion. Performance-based assessment are complex, authentic, process, product-oriented, open-ended, and time-bound. When evaluating student work and assessing for learning, teachers tend to choose two trends of appraisal, no? The product assessment and the process assessment. The process-oriented, or normally called the performance-based assessments, are based on observing the development of the learning process or processes. It is a step-by-step interaction where there is input and output at all times between the teacher and the student. During this process-oriented evaluation, the student is allowed to make mistakes so as they constitute an important part of the entire exercise. So you can call this process-oriented as a formative type of assessment. On the other hand, product-oriented assessment or evaluation seeks to assess performance through a finalized product that should meet specific requirements. The product-oriented evaluation or assessment is often accompanied by a rubric that the student evaluates himself to see if the expectations of the final product are being met. It is normally a summative type of assessment and not formative. There are ways to state product-oriented assessment competencies, no? We can call it level 1 or beginner, where the finished product illustrate the minimum expected parts. So the level 2 would be the skilled level, where the finished product contains additional parts and functions on top of the minimum requirements, and which tend, of course, to enhance the output. And the level 3 is the expert level, where the finished product contains basic minimum parts and functions and have additional features on top of the minimum and is also pleasing or beautiful. Both product-based and process-based assessments provide information about how a student understands and applies knowledge and involves hands-on tasks or activities that students must complete individually or in small groups. Of course, during this time of pandemic, we always ask you to do your assignments individually. Examples of product assessment or product-based assessment include visual products, yung what you see, no? Kinesthetic products, you do some physical acts, no? Written products and verbal products. The examples of process-based assessment includes oral presentations by speech, no? And demonstration, dramatic creative performances, public speaking, and even the athletic skills demonstration or competitions. So, what are the criteria of a good performance assessment? First, it must be authentic or meaningful and close to reality. Second, it provides opportunities for students to show both what they know and how well they can do what they know. It allows students to evaluate their own and their peers' performance and output. And then it assesses more complex skills, not just the cognitive, no? And it explains the task, the required elements, and scoring criteria to the students before they do their performance tasks or activities. We call this a direction, no? In our assignments or tests. And how do you conduct performance assessment? The first thing is we need to define the performance or product-based assessment. What is it for? And then we need to choose a performance task. That is an activity or output that will be the basis of your assessment. And then we need to create a rubric, di ba? Yung rubrics must have the criteria, okay? What are the criteria of that performance, okay? And then uh, in front of those criteria, there should be levels of performance, whether inadequate, good, very good, excellent, no? And then those levels of performance must have scores and must have also descriptors. And then the last is, of course, you use the rubrics when you assess students the performance task, okay? So this is an example again, if you remember this rubric, no? For example, you ask your students to do a history research paper, okay? That is the performance task. And then you have the criteria, number of sources, historical accuracy, organization, and bibliography. Of course, if the criteria is singular, we call it criterion. And then, of course, for the criteria, you need to have the level of performance, like excellent, good, or poor. And then you need to score that. For example, excellent will be 3, good is 2, and poor is 1. Now, of course, you need to have a descriptor or descriptors because why will you say excellent? There should be a description or descriptors to make. And it is also a guide for students as they do their performance tasks. Okay, so we have reviewed the performance assessment and its tools. Now, we go to the affective assessment and the affective assessment tools. The first question is, why do affective assessment? First of all, it is because students are human beings also with feelings. Even though adults, no, sometimes they are controlled by their emotions and they do something beyond or contrary to reasons, no. Uh, so students are also human beings, and you need to know and somehow understand and even respect their feelings. Number two, emotions need to be processed in order not to interfere with one's life and works. It is good for students to know their own feelings, which we call metacognition, and it is good also for us to understand them. Because if emotions will not be processed and understood, then it will interfere not only in studies, but in real life and real works. And also, emotions and internal conditions can improve learning and even teaching strategies, di ba? If you consider them and you give some weight on them, you can understand, you can better improve learning. And on our part, we can even improve our teaching strategies. What are the taxonomy of the affective domain? There are five. To receive, which means a person or a student accepts what you give or teach. To respond, which means students or a certain person answers positively your questions or they obey instructions. To value, it means that a person believes on something. Okay? To organize means to prioritize what is better, what is good, and proper. While to characterize is to consistently do or live using or believing or doing something. What are the common affective variables that are said to be important to learning and teaching? There are five, no? The first is the attitude. It refers uh, to your perception or to your behavior to something, whether favorable or not. Values are what you deem important, and beliefs are are in a sense what you believe behind the physical world, no? Sometimes they call it metaphysics, or what you believe uh, on things that you do not see. Okay? How about interest? Interest is more of a psychological state, no? That makes you do something. Okay? Motivation are above interest because it is what drives you to do something very hard, what drives you to pay for something, and also what drives you to make sacrifices. In motivation, you have some extrinsic and intrinsic goals. And self-confidence is your perception of your capabilities to do something. What are the common affective assessment tools? There are four. The first is the self-report questionnaire. And there are also different kinds of self-report questionnaire. The most popular would be the Likert scale, semantic differential, and the checklist. This is where students just check, no, what they believe as their own feelings and internal condition. The second assessment tool, effective assessment tool, is interview, whether structured, unstructured, or done individually or group interview. Student journals are also effective assessment tools where teachers look on what students have written about something. And then observation also is an effective assessment tool, whether structured or unstructured. This is a sample Likert scale, no? For example, you want to investigate to what extent does your students agree or disagree with the following views about mathematics. And for example, mathematics is the study of formula, rules, and procedures in solving problems. And students will be asked to just tick or check only one option. Maybe they would check strongly agree, which has the score of 5. Normally, in the Likert scale, or even differential, no, semantic differential, the most positive has the most highest number, and the most negative has the lowest. So you have agree as 4, slightly agrees 3, disagrees 2, and strongly disagree is 1. So students, according to their own perception, can just take 1. For example, 2. In mathematics, you can discover new things that can be exciting. Okay? To be able to solve mathematical problems, you have to memorize and follow procedures as taught in the class. So students will just tick or check 1. Mathematics is an exact subject that requires precision and accuracy. Me, if I will be the one answering this number 4, I would say strongly agree. Okay? And then mathematics is logic and reasoning. This is a sample structured interview to do effective assessment. For example, you want to interview your students since your students seem to be not following what you have taught, no? So you just select one and you ask the questions. Of course, as you ask questions, as teachers or interviewer, you need to write some notes. How did you feel about your participation in our class today? Maybe what you want to say here is it boring? Are you happy? Did you enjoy? Okay. What did you think about the story that we discussed? Did the story interest you? What is the part of the story that caught most of your attention and why? What makes you read a book without being told so by your teacher? How do you like reading class? What makes you dislike it if ever you feel so? And the last question is, what different approach should your teacher use to help you and your classmates better? So number one, number 7 is really, I think, very, very important because it can help the teacher improve his strategy. So these are effective assessment and its tools. Now, we go to the portfolio and portfolio assessment. There are types of portfolio. We can call it working portfolio, show portfolio. In working portfolio, normally you compile your daily task, no? For example, in our class, of course, because in elementary, they have daily, no? English, okay. But in college, weekly. So it is a collection of weekly works that reflects your learning. But in show portfolio, you only include in the portfolio the best, no, works. And documentary, of course, is a combination of working and show portfolios. What are the principles of portfolio? Or why do you do portfolio? Of course, first of all, you want to have the content, no? You want to show the subject matter or the topic or the lesson important to you. I think in any portfolio, the first principle would be the content, the lesson plans, what else? The the additional ideas uh, that would that would make you no somehow learn a certain topic. The second principle of portfolio is learning. So, in a sense, it will include your reflections and your works, no, about a certain topic. And then the equity principle is that it demonstrates students' learning style and multiple intelligences because you will need to organize or arrange the documents. You will need also to make good of the portfolio, the static or the beauty of your portfolio is also judged, no? But normally it's the content of the portfolio that is being judged and the learning with it. Of course, if the portfolio is not very good, um, maybe or it's not beautifully made, maybe the equity principle is not given weight. How do you develop or how do you make a portfolio? Of course, you have to set goals and then you need to collect documents, materials, and then after collecting, you want your portfolio to be what? To include only the best, okay, materials or documents. So you need to select. And then you need to organize or to arrange everything. You can arrange it by goals, by topics, no? And then you need to reflect, okay, on each topics and then evaluate them. And then you need to confer with the teacher whether you have done a good portfolio. And then, of course, hopefully, there will be an exhibit to show the portfolios of students. And what to assess in a portfolio? Of course, first of all, there should be written identified competencies or yung the real content of the topic or what should be your learning after the subject. And then significant evidences to show the attainment of the intended competencies. What are the evidences that you can show and that you documented to show that the competencies or the topics discussed are uh, uh, are attained or you know that already. And then also you look at the aesthetic elements of the portfolio. I have here a sample rubrics, no, to do portfolio assessment. The category are as follows, no. For example, you want to do a portfolio in alternative assessment. So the first thing that I will look is written goals. What are your written goals? And what are the goals of the alternative assessment? No? And then I want to see the documents selected by you or the materials. And then I want to see if you have done reflections or personal activities and work along with the goals of your portfolio. I want to see also whether the portfolio is organized or arranged well. And then I want to see the neatness and the aesthetics of the portfolio and then also the writings or the grammar, or if those documents are really grammatically correct, okay, and even your reflection. So that is all for this week, no? And next week will be our midterm examination. We have discussed the performance assessment and its tools. We have reviewed the affective assessment and its tools. We have reviewed also the portfolio and assessing the portfolio. Thank you for listening, and may you have a good exam by next week. God bless you, everyone.